Hi everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and today, together with my friends from allfreeknitting.com, I'm bringing you this tutorial on how to hand paint yarn. To start off, we have a container with 6 cups of water, to which I just added 1, and then I'm going to actually add a 2nd tablespoon of white vinegar. In this water, we are going to pre-soak the yarn, so that way the acid source, which is required to dye the yarn, is present when we start painting the yarn with the food coloring. For the base, we're using 100 grams of Knit Pick Stroll Bare yarn, which is a wool nylon blend. And so this is just normal cold tap water with 2 tablespoons of white vinegar, and I am gently submerging this yarn, and I'm going to let it soak for about 30 minutes or so. While that's soaking, I'm going to take you through the other materials that we need for this tutorial. We'll need some small containers in which to mix our different dye colors. And of course we'll need some food coloring. I have here some examples of the food coloring that we might be using today. I really like McCormick's liquid dye, but any kind of liquid food coloring would work. In these vials, I have a non-scientific stock solution of some different Wilton paste dyes. And the way that I make these solutions that I would then use to make, mix my different colors is I take a toothpick with some of the paste and then add it to some water and mix it up. So see, here we have black, brown, and some purple. Often I've said that rubber gloves are optional. Since we're dealing with non-toxic chemicals here, the gloves are still an optional component, but if you want to keep your hands color-free, then I recommend that you wear some kind of glove during this process. Now, different people have different ways that they like to apply the dye to the yarn when they're painting it. You can do that by pouring your liquid directly on the skein and working it through with your hands. But sometimes I like to use syringes to apply. And you can find, you can use turkey syringes, different flavor syringes that you can find at your local kitchen store. You'll need some kind of microwave safe plate. Today we are going to be using our microwave as the heat source for this tutorial. And you're also going to need plastic wrap. This is what we're going to wrap the yarn in while we heat it. Now, you also may need to protect your work surface. I'm going to be working on this granite countertop, so I'm not worried about color getting into it. But if you're working on a wood surface, then sometimes I'll cover it with a plastic bag and paper towels to catch additional spills, so that way I don't accidentally stain my work surface. I am ready to start mixing up my dyes. To each of these glasses here, I have added 1/8 of a cup of water. I have 2 syringes from when I'm adding dyes from my paste stocks, and I have an extra cup of water back here for cleaning the syringe off. So I think that the colors that I'm going to want to use in my yarn today are going to be black, brown, purple, blue, and green. Now, the brown is not going to be a prominent color, but I am going to want to make the colors a little less bright. So adding brown can help with that. So I'm going to start by making some colors. I'm going to add 10 drops. I didn't lose count, of green to 1 glass, 5 to the 2nd, and none to the 3rd. Then with the blue, I'm going to do 10 drops. here and 5 drops in the middle. There. And so I like to use a little fork to mix the colors, and just so you can get a sense of where we're at right now, we've got some blue, more of a teal, and a green. This is why I like working on a paper towel, because you can really use this to keep track of your colors. Now, these colors are a little bright, so I've got a stock solution here of some brown that was a Wilton's paste diluted into water. And I'm not sure really how much water to dye ratio there is, but I'm going to add, so this is all done with just experimentation. Where is my marking? There it is. So I'm going to add about a milliliter of brown, you know, very approximate to each of these glasses. And we can see how that changes the color. Alright, syringe in the cup water, then with my fork, you can see now that the blue, we've got a deeper, somewhat less bright color. And so you can play a lot with the way that you mix your colors. And I am going to mix some colors in my other 3 cups in a similar fashion. And then when I come back, we'll be ready to start painting our yarn. I have finished mixing my dyes, and I just want to give you a sense of my finished colors by using this fork dipping technique. Doing this on a paper towel by your work surface is a great way to help you keep track of your different colors, so that way when you start adding them to the yarn, you know which ones they are. Because as you can see, I've oops, I guess this was my, and the colors will spread on the paper towel, but so this can help you decide how you want to order them. Alright, now I need to set up my workspace. So I have a large region of my countertop cleared right here, and there, have the camera settled, and using just standard kitchen plastic wrap, I'm going to arrange it on the counter to try to create sort of an oval, because once the yarn is laid on, we're going to try to wrap the plastic wrap around it. And so it doesn't really matter if it sticks to itself too much. I just want to keep the ends clear. Get another piece. And put a second piece down. And so, you know, here's the middle, but the middle doesn't need to be covered, because that's where the yarn's going to go. And for good measure, I'm going to add tiny little pieces over each end. We may need more plastic wrap when it comes time to finally wrap the yarn, but for now this should be sufficient. This should be sufficient for the painting. So now to come over to where our yarn has been soaking, there's a lot of water here, and we don't want this much water. So I'm going to pour, I'm holding it with the yarn with my hands, the yarn doesn't go in this thing. I'm going to pour the water out and gently, very gently squeeze out the excess water, because don't forget that we will be adding more liquid as we're painting. So there is still, you know, the yarn is still quite wet. And now, turn back over here, we want to get it so this skein is tied off somewhere. I want to find that. There we go. Alright, so now we have our pretty skein, and we're going to just lay it on the plastic wrap in a neat oval. So you can see that there is saran wrap on all sides of the yarn, and you want the skein to be as neat as possible because theoretically you want your color repeats to be fairly regular. You know, of course it's possible you don't want your color repeats regular, in which case then you are fine. And now comes the fun part. There is really no science to how you add your yarns. Let's see, I'm going to bring my dyes over. So I've got black, and then I've got purple, can you see? Yeah, blue, a different blue, teal, and green. So let's see, I will start by adding the green. So I've got just a 5mm little syringe here, and I'm not really caring about the volume that I add, but I am using this just as a handy way to add the dye. And so how you paint the yarn and in what big sections is completely up to you. So you see I've added the dye here. Now you can choose to have a lot of white and make a speckled yarn, or after you've added yarn to a section, you can gently press on it to expand where the dye is. And oh, that's cool. You can see the browns. But you want to make sure that you don't have any white sections on the inside. So we're going to be needing to add more dye to this section. Now, part of the reason why I have arranged my dyes, there we go, and you can see the dye kind of squirting out the sides a bit. That just means that, you know, it's working. But I still have a fair amount of white down there. So we're going to need to really press to expand the dye. Alright, at the end we'll check for white spots. I also like to keep some paper towels handy, so that way I can wipe off my hands in between pressings. And I guess I'll move my wastewater to the center, and I use this to rinse, just rinse off my syringe. Alright, so then my next color is this blue, or I guess teal. I'm keeping the sections pretty big at this point because I'm not sure how much I'm going to want to extend them. See. Then we got this blue, or yeah. But so I'm really just starting off adding the colors broadly, so that way I have a sense of where I want each color to be. That was the blue. We've got our purple. We've got black. Black is an interesting color to work with because you can actually get it. There is no real black dye. The black dye is just composed of a bunch of different colors. And so there's something that people like to do sometimes called breaking black, where you get it to split into its different colors. And so while that isn't our goal today, it is possible that it could happen. Okay. And since I don't want any white spaces, I will be going through and adding more dye to each of those spots, but I'm also going to, in each of my sections, you know, massage the dye. And the the last thing I will do will be adding dye to the white spots in between, because I'll be working the color, working the color so that there is some pretty overlap. I've added all of my dyes to each of the sections, and I'm now going to start working them, just kind of slowly massaging the dyes to cover the white areas on either side. So you can see here, did the black. And you may need to use more dye. I mean, maybe next time I do this, I'll start off with a volume slightly greater than a 1/4 cup. Or I can also add, more dye. Whoops. There's a white section that I need to fix. Slowly move the black. So you see how this white section is now gone. And we'll do the same thing over here, because you can get some fun mixes of colors. I've done, my gradient is a little slower in color changes, and it's okay if there's still some pale colors, because that may be what you want. But then you can slowly massage all the way around. All of the dye has been added to the yarn. If you've got too many white spots, as I said, I mixed a little extra dye because I wanted to spread it a bit further. And with my paper towel, before I fold it up, I'm going through and just patting up excess liquid around the sides just to keep things clean. Alright, now we're ready to wrap this up. And so, there's no exact science here, but you want, I guess starting at the outside, wrapping, saran wrap around, working in. If you want, you can just add extra saran wrap over it to begin with. I'm just going to kind of roll it in. We want the colors to kind of stay separate because we don't want to lose all of our beautiful hand painting work. So now, I've rolled it up. And this is where the microwave safe plate comes in. So we're carefully going to transfer this onto the microwave safe plate. And you'll see some dye did get on the plate. We really want this to be as covered as possible because we don't want a lot of the moisture to escape while we are microwaving, but some will inevitably escape. So now we have our wrap skein on our microwave safe plate. And now to the microwave. So of course you don't want to burn or scorch your yarn. So I microwave in 2-minute stints. I will let it cook for 2 minutes and then we'll stop and see where it is. But you want to get it so that the yarn is steaming. And so then whenever the yarn starts steaming, I then let it sit and cool off for a bit before repeating the process. I finished 4 minutes, and while the yarn is not hissing and steaming, it is hot to touch. So I'm going to let it cool down until I can handle comfortably, and then I'm going to repeat this process one more time. Alright, our beautiful skein is now cool to the touch, so we are ready to unwrap and then wash it. I may have mentioned previously, but when you're hand painting yarn, you're much more likely to have excess color, and so more color to rinse out than you are in a lot of the submersion dyeing techniques that we've done in my tutorials. Alright, so now we've got the skein. It's so pretty, free of the plastic wrap. We are going to come over here and rinse this in lukewarm water. Oh, and see why I wear gloves? My hands are nice and colorful. And you can kind of see that there's a little color, but we heated it long enough that most of the color is in fact remaining in the yarn. But this isn't as clear. So that's good. That means we heated it for long enough. I'm going to add some mild dish soap. Oops, not quite that much. But I'm going to add some soap to the water because we want to help to try to remove all, there we go, there's some color. Hard to see with the suds, but you see that the color running off from the addition of soap. And we don't, because you don't want any of the dye to end up on clothes or ruining anything else. So this is why it is very important to always wash your yarn after you're done dyeing. And you keep washing until the water runs clear and no more dye comes out of the yarn. So there we have it. We have a beautiful skein, I'll open it up, of hand painted yarn. You can achieve different results and get more consistent tones throughout if you use a little bit more water in your dye, or if you don't squeeze out quite so much water when you start painting. But there are many ways that you can vary your results. You just have to play with it and have fun. Think of it like finger painting. You know, you never know what you're going to get, but you will ultimately create something that is really beautiful. Even if it ends up brown, because you can get a very beautiful brown. Anyway, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and thank you for watching this tutorial brought to you by allfreenknitting.com on how to hand paint your yarn.